How do you stop overthinking? The question sounds simple, yet it is the torment of countless people. Because if stopping were easy, you would not have spent nights lying awake, replaying scenarios that will never happen. You would not have bitten your lip after every conversation, wondering if you said something wrong. And you would not be exhausted from fighting hundreds of imagined outcomes while, in reality, nothing is happening at all. Overthinking is not just thinking too much. It is the mind's mechanism of constructing imaginary films, as if by doing so you could avoid pain. But the truth is, it only causes more pain. Your heart races, your sleep is stolen, your joy dissolves into anxiety. To the outside world, you look quiet, but inside, you are trapped in an endless stream you cannot escape. Jung once said, "What we do not make conscious appears in our lives as fate." Overthinking is one such shadow, repeating itself until you dare to face it directly. And that is the reason for this video, not to tell you to stop thinking, but to show you the real root of these cycles. Once you understand the message hidden beneath overthinking, you will know how to untangle it and, step by step, find your way back to peace of mind. When you are trapped in overthinking, the real pain is not just in the chain of thoughts, but in the feeling that you can no longer trust yourself. You walk away from a conversation and, instead of feeling relieved, you replay every detail. Did I talk too much? Did I annoy them? Did I expose some weakness? The more you think, the more you believe in negative scenarios, until even the actual memory becomes distorted. Or, when you receive a rejection email from a job you wanted, instead of seeing it as normal, your mind immediately labels it, "I'm not good enough. I'll never have another chance." A small event suddenly ignites a much larger sense of failure. Overthinking also weaves its way into close relationships. A close friend hasn't replied to your message yet, and you start asking yourself, are they tired of me? Did I do something wrong? The ordinary silence of another person turns into an echo of your fear of abandonment. And because you believe in these assumptions, you slowly create distance, playing out the very script you were afraid of all along. The worst part is that overthinking robs you of presence. You sit at the dinner table, but your mind is still replaying yesterday's story. You walk down the street, but your thoughts are already caught in tomorrow's worries. The present moment becomes a faded backdrop, while you are pulled into endless reels of imagined film. Jung once noted that the human mind tends to project what has not been healed. When you have not faced the root of your fear, it will find ways to appear in everyday situations. And overthinking is one such projection. The past left unresolved, painting the present in the colors of anxiety. The problem is not that you think too much, but that your mind has not yet learned to distinguish between what is really happening and what is born from fear. This is the truth this video wants to offer you. Overthinking is not an illness you should feel ashamed of. It is a signal that it is time to learn a new language, the language of listening, instead of running away from yourself. Carl Jung once said, "What we deny in the unconscious will return to us as fate." Overthinking is a vivid example of this truth. You think you are simply worrying too much about the future, but in reality, it is the unhealed past slipping in and shaping your present. Every time you replay, analyze, and construct scenarios, your unconscious is trying to protect the inner child that was once hurt. Imagine this. You were once a child who was not heard, left alone in moments when you most needed comfort. That wound never disappeared. It only went underground. Now, when your partner doesn't reply to your message or when your boss stays silent in a meeting, your unconscious instantly connects that silence to the old memory of abandonment. You are not just reacting to the present, you are reliving the past pain. This is why overthinking feels so real. It is the repetition of yesterday's wounds dressed in today's disguise. Overthinking is also tied to an archetype Jung described as the worrier. This archetype convinces you that if you think enough, you can control everything. But the truth is the opposite. The more you think, the tighter the chains become. Fear doesn't disappear, it only grows larger. The shadow here is not your intelligence, but the false belief that thought can substitute for real safety. Think back to a moment of uncertainty, waiting for a job interview result, or when a friend didn't text back. Your conscious mind says, maybe they're just busy, but the shadow whispers, you're not good enough. Everyone leaves you. The more you listen to that voice, the tighter the loop becomes, and the further you drift from reality. What Jung wanted us to understand is that overthinking is not a personal flaw. It is a sign that a part of your unconscious has not yet been integrated. It is a reminder that something inside you is asking for your attention. If you only try to stop thinking, you are merely silencing the signal. But if you dare to look deeper, you will see that every loop of thought is a clue pointing back to an old wound. And once that wound begins to heal, the loop starts to weaken. This is the vital link between overthinking and the journey Jung called individuation, becoming a whole version of yourself, not by extinguishing your thoughts, but by transforming them into doors that lead into the shadow, and from there, toward the light. If you look closely, you'll see that overthinking doesn't appear at random. It runs like an unconscious loop. It usually begins with a tiny signal, a message left unanswered, a cool glance, an unopened email. Instead of letting it pass, your mind flips on the alarm. You start imagining the worst-case scenarios and then attach them to the present moment. That anxiety activates your body. Your heart races, your throat tightens, your sleep disappears. And this physiological reaction convinces you that the fear is real. Thus, the closed loop, a small signal, catastrophic scenarios, bodily reactions, distorted beliefs, more anxiety. Jung called this the way the shadow seizes control. When unresolved memories lie in the unconscious, they steer you through reflex. You think you're just being careful, but in truth, it's the shadow pushing you forward. Every pessimistic storyline in your head is a duplicate of an old memory, being rejected, being abandoned, being belittled. Nothing is new. You are simply reliving the past in a different form. The turning point lies in awareness. Overthinking does not protect you the way you think it does. It merely replays the wound and makes you pay the price again and again. You believe you're preparing for the worst, but the truth is that you're forcing yourself into the feeling of failure, even when nothing has happened. And here is the cognitive reversal few dare to face. You do not suffer because you think too much. You suffer because you have never learned to listen to the message hidden beneath those thoughts. Overthinking is not the enemy. It is a mirror. It shows you which past wound is still open. But instead of looking into it, you try to snuff out the reflection by thinking more, thinking harder, until you are exhausted. The danger of this unconscious mechanism is that it makes you identify with the loop. You can no longer tell where you end and the fear begins. You say, "I am a failure," instead of recognizing that it is only the echo of a rejected memory. You believe, "I am being abandoned," instead of seeing that someone is simply busy. The unconscious has swapped reality with shadow, and you accept it as the only truth. Yet exactly here, a door opens. When you pause and recognize, this isn't me, this is a voice from an unhealed part, you begin to reclaim your freedom. The loop only holds power when you remain in the dark. Once the light of consciousness shines on it, it loses its strength. So instead of asking, how do I stop thinking? Try asking, what are these thoughts trying to tell me? The answer isn't in forcing yourself into silence. It's in learning to read the message. And if you stay to the end, you will see a truth most people overlook. Overthinking is not only a barrier, it can become a map. If you are brave enough to face the shadow that is sending you its signals, imagine there is a storage room inside your mind. At first, it is spacious and tidy, with just enough space to keep a few memories, a few plans, a few minor worries. But over time, instead of clearing it out, you keep stuffing everything in there. A strange glance, an unfinished sentence, an unanswered email, a text left on read. Box after box of thoughts, bag after bag of anxieties, pile up. One day, the room is so crammed you can't find anything anymore. All that remains is clutter and suffocation. This is the truest picture of overthinking. This mental storage room has 3 defining traits. First, it accumulates. Nothing is ever let go, no matter how small. Second, it is dark. You cannot tell what is real and what is imagined. Everything looks like identical boxes stacked in the shadows. Third, it has no exit. You walk in circles, opening one box after another, but peace is nowhere to be found. From the outside, people only see your silence. But inside, you are stumbling around that messy storage room, asking yourself, did I say the wrong thing? Do they still need me? What will happen tomorrow? Each question is another box dragged into the room, weighing you down even more. But picture what happens the day you dare to crack a window open, letting the light in. You start sorting. Which boxes are truly important? Which ones are just assumptions? You discover some boxes are empty, yet you've been carrying them as if they were unbearably heavy. That is the moment you begin to reclaim control. Overthinking cannot be solved by shouting, "Stop thinking." It is like this storage room. The more you forbid yourself to open the door, the more suffocating it becomes. Only by facing it, by sifting, rearranging, and throwing out the useless, can you create order again. And when the light finally spills across the floor, you realize the problem was never that you had too many thoughts. The problem was that no one ever taught you how to clear the space, how to choose what deserves to stay and what no longer needs to be carried. If you've ever woken up in the middle of the night with your heart racing, replaying the same scenario over and over again, you know overthinking is no joke. It isn't just thinking too much. It's the sensation of being trapped inside the cluttered storage room of your mind. You tell yourself to stop, but within seconds, a new thought crashes in, louder than the last. And then comes the anger at yourself. Why can't I control this? Why does something so small explode into a storm? Think back. How many times have you replayed a conversation dozens of times, dissecting every word, every gesture, only to land on the same conclusion, I messed up? How many times have you waited for a text, each passing minute birthing another theory, from the harmless to the catastrophic? To others, you look quiet, but inside, you are battling a tidal wave no one else can see. The cost of living inside this loop is brutally clear. It eats away at your sleep, leaving you with heavy eyes each morning. It erodes your focus because while your body is present, your mind is stuck in yesterday or tomorrow. It chips at your confidence Because every moment of self-doubt slices away another fragment of your worth. Worst of all, it disconnects you from others. You slowly retreat, afraid to speak, afraid to act, afraid of triggering yet another spiral. If nothing changes, the road splits in two. One path leads to becoming the safe version of yourself. Bland, muted, always restrained, terrified of mistakes. The other path ends in exhaustion, living in relentless anxiety until you can no longer enjoy life at all. But the truth is this: you are not born to be a prisoner in that storage room. And the more you run from it, the dimmer the exit becomes. Only when you dare to face the loop head-on will you have a chance to break it. The first thing you need to flip is the way you name yourself. How many times have you sighed and said, "I think too much, I'm too complicated"? Every time you repeat that phrase, you turn overthinking into an identity, as if that's the only person you could ever be. But the truth is, overthinking isn't you. It's just a mechanism the mind uses when it feels unsafe. Jung once said, "We do not heal by becoming perfect, but by making the unconscious conscious." So try reframing. Instead of "I think too much," call it what it really is. I'm receiving a signal from within. This shift in language helps you translate your own experience. When your mind spins up endless scenarios, you can whisper to yourself, "This isn't reality. This is an old fear asking to be heard." When you find yourself replaying a conversation, try saying, "I wasn't wrong. I just haven't let go of control yet." In this way, overthinking stops being an enemy you must destroy and becomes a message you need to decode. Reframing also means recognizing the strength in what once made you suffer. Others skim over details, but you see the layers beneath. Others forget instantly, but you remember every word. If you learn to channel it, this becomes a gift, an ability to observe and connect deeply. This radar can help you spot when a relationship is beginning to crack, when a plan has a blind spot, and when someone truly needs to be heard. The new language is not the overthinker, but the signal reader. But here's the quiet warning. If you don't define yourself, society will do it for you. It will hand you labels like the difficult one, the pessimist, and you'll spend your life living under that shadow. The only way out is to choose. Choose to believe that overthinking is a signal, not a flaw. Choose to pause and ask yourself, what is my mind trying to protect? What fear hasn't been healed yet? Try saying a new declaration to yourself. I am not the scenarios in my head. I am the one holding the map. That map may be messy, its lines may blur, but it is yours. And when you dare to hold it, you stop being the victim of overthinking and start being the interpreter of it. This reframing doesn't turn you into someone else. It simply brings you back to the truth, that excessive thoughts have never been proof that you're broken. They are reminders that you hold a depth few people can reach. And if you learn how to use it, that very depth becomes the key that unlocks the invisible cage so you can, maybe for the first time, feel free inside your own mind. Understanding alone isn't enough. You need small steps to turn awareness into action. Step 1, write it down. Every time the loop of thoughts begins, treat it like another box tossed into the warehouse. Don't let it pile up. Open a notebook and write it out. No editing, no polishing. Just get it out of your head. Writing is how you unpack one box at a time. Step 2. Practice separating fact from assumption. Ask yourself, what actually happened, and what is just a scenario I created? When you answer honestly, you'll realize many boxes of worry are empty. Step 3. Train your body to feel safe again. When the spiral of thoughts intensifies, pause for a few minutes. Place your hand on your stomach and breathe deeply. Breath is the window that lets fresh air flow into the suffocating warehouse. Step 4. Choose one person who can truly listen. Share just a fragment, one thought, one concern, so you can experience that your inner language isn't completely invisible. When there's a witness, what lives in your mind becomes less frightening. These actions may seem small, but they are enough to start. Stopping overthinking doesn't mean erasing every thought. It means learning to sort them, to arrange them, to let the light in. And little by little, the warehouse in your mind will feel less crowded, less dark, making room again for peace. If you continue to live inside the loop of overthinking without learning how to decode it, the cost will only grow heavier. You will slowly lose the ability to be present. Meals will feel tasteless because your mind is still trapped in yesterday's conversation. Nights will become restless because your brain won't stop creating scenarios for tomorrow. You may finish your tasks, but always in a state of exhaustion, as if every day is a silent battle inside your head. Over time, this fatigue hardens into emptiness. You stop trusting yourself, you stop trusting others, and worse, you stop believing that you deserve peace. But if you dare to change, even with the smallest steps, you will begin to uncover a different quality within yourself. You'll see that your sharp observation is not a punishment, but a gift. You'll realize the sensitivity that once made you torment yourself is actually a radar, allowing you to connect deeply with the emotions and needs of others. And as you learn to sort your thoughts, you reclaim your freedom. You know which signals are real and which are just assumptions. The moment you separate the two, peace appears instantly. Jung once said, "Man does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Overthinking is that darkness. It is the unspoken part of your unconscious. When you dare to bring it into the light, it ceases to be a prison and becomes a map. This map doesn't promise a life without uncertainty, but it gives you something more valuable: the ability to stand firm in the very midst of uncertainty. You don't need to turn yourself into someone who thinks less. You only need to turn the excess of thought into a tool. Then, overthinking is no longer the master of your life, but an ally, reminding you to return, to reflect, and to live truthfully with yourself. And that is the strength you once believed you didn't have. Picture yourself in a dark room where you light a single candle. It doesn't chase away all the shadows, but it's enough to reveal a few steps ahead. Overthinking works the same way. You can't extinguish every thought in a single day, but you can light up small spaces with awareness. Each time you write down a worry, each time you separate fact from assumption, you're lighting another candle. And when those candles begin to gather, the suffocating darkness slowly retreats. You may still feel fear. You may still face nights when your mind refuses to stop spinning. But remember, peace doesn't come from erasing every thought. It comes from your ability to walk alongside them without drowning. As this video ends, try one small act. Write down one worry you usually hide, then fold it up. You don't need to solve it yet. Just admitting it exists is enough. That is your first candle, and perhaps somewhere along this path, you'll realize freedom is not about controlling every scenario. It's about having the courage to step through the fog carrying a small light in your hand. And when the next door opens, you'll know you've already begun to live differently.